help myself but think there's a big connection here between Michael Jordan and the Henry Viscardi school. While we probably would have wanted MJ at this school at some point during the 90s, while they were winning, so too were the HVS Cougars and Cubbies. And the man who engineered it all, Joe Slaninka, is with me now. And Joe, I know you didn't really watch the documentary, but I've got to ask you about that era because it was quite an era for both the Bulls and HVS.
Yeah, I mean, the 90s, the Bulls, I went to a lot of Knicks games, back then, with the Bulls. And, MJ was a great player. And, the Bulls had a dynasty. They had the team. They were the team to beat. Yeah, it was incredible. As a sports fan, it was something great to see.
But as we're watching that, you also saw our program develop and win as well.
Yeah, well, I kind of, emulated what, Phil Jackson and the Bulls had a little bit, you kind of, as a coach, I am a wheelchair basketball coach. Mm-hmm. As a coach, you want to pick and choose who you want to be like. Mm. And Phil Jackson is, why not want to be like him? So you kind of build a program the way he did. You have your point guard, you got your rebounder, your defender,
Well, Joe, you totally did my job here. I should have introduced you. You are the HVS wheelchair basketball coach, and I've known you for 25 years now. And so in that time, I've seen the program grow. I was on it for a few years, and it struck me the parallels. And while we didn't really get national recognition like Jordan, we definitely had our own style going.
Yes, absolutely. In the world of wheelchair basketball and adapted wheelchair basketball, we were it. And we continue, that prowess today. People want to be like us, which is a great feeling.
A great deal, yeah.
A great compliment to our program.
And you were just talking me off the air. We might be in lockdown, but the program still is going, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In today's world, right now, everybody's Zooming, right? So we have the opportunity to Zoom with our kids at school, whether it's, about math or basketball. I have a great opportunity to, meet with my kids on the day that they're supposed to have basketball practice.
So like Tuesday, Thursday nights.
Correct. Whether it's a Monday night for JV, Tuesdays for varsity, and then Thursday for the low guys. It's a great way to check in and see how everybody's doing. I think that's very important to want to check in with everybody and just say hi, thinking about you. How's it going? Because nobody's done this before. This is new to everybody.
Joe, have you seen this community come together during this time more so than maybe other times?
Yes. There's a lot of great support. People want to do for other people, whether it's, getting a computer to a kid or getting a basketball to a kid, definitely some food and things like that.
Yeah.
People are definitely stepping up.
And that is huge. And of course, we've seen crisis before. I mean, 9/11, I just remember everybody was stuck there at Viscardi during that day. That was pretty terrible.
Yeah, that was a bad day.
And were you stuck over with them during that day, or what was your role that day?
Well, I was, what was I doing? I was hanging out. I mean, I didn't stay overnight. A lot of the medical staff and things like that. I lived locally at that time. So, they got a lot of the people out of there, at a certain time. And I stayed pretty late.
I remember stories of people having to sleep over there and everything like that too.
Say again, I'm sorry?
I remember stories of people having to sleep over there after 9/11 that night.
Medical into, some sleeping quarters, in the gym. And then we had to get some kids to the hospital, because of, specific medical issues that, they have.
Right. Joe, we're sort of talking locally, but for those maybe on other outlets that may not have heard of us before, Tell us what HVS is and the basketball program. Give us a little more in depth about the Henry Viscardi School and why I felt compelled to talk about this today.
Okay, all right, yeah. So the Henry Viscardi School was built in 1962 by a man named Dr. Henry Viscardi Jr. He was a man that was born without legs, and he was a man that wasn't really treated very nicely as a kid, wasn't educated very well. So he had this goal, this idea to build a school where a kid can go to and have a good, safe, quality education. We are a regional school, so our kids come from Nassau, Suffolk, the 5 boroughs, or Westchester. You are a student at our school because, for whatever reason, your home district can't or won't meet your needs. It could be as simple as I'm in a wheelchair, and the school I'm supposed to go to doesn't have a ramp or an elevator, so I can't access the building. It could be that I have a disability and I learn differently, right? And my home district doesn't have the ways and means like we do at Viscardi, the technology and things like that. Or it could be quite simply, my disability is such that I need medical attention during the day. And a simple nurse's station where you get a Band-Aid and an aspirin is not sufficient.
Not at all. And Joe, you though take the mind off that for the kids, and you've had this program. It was your creation, wheelchair basketball, right?
Right.
Viscardi?
So I was born with spina bifida. I'm in a wheelchair, so I know what sports did for me. You know, I found sports when I was 18 years old, a little bit later in life. I found wheelchair basketball. I went to Stony Brook University. I met my first friend with a disability, and quite simply, she said, "You know what? You're in a wheelchair. So what? Suck it up. Let's go play some basketball." She put a basketball in my hand, and it took off. I met a lot of great people, guys and girls. I got to travel a lot across the country to play wheelchair basketball. And when I started at Viscardi, there was a need. You know, the parents were, my kid comes to school and he goes home and watches TV. You know, but my other kids, the neighbors, the cousins, they're playing sports. They're doing this, they're doing that. So I had simply said, hey, you know what? I just started playing this game, wheelchair basketball, about 2 or 3 years earlier. Let's see if we can figure something out. So with some PTs and some OTs at school and some friends at the National Wheelchair Basketball Association, we figured it out. And we developed a game where our kids, who are in manual chairs, power chairs, braces, walkers, crutches, you know, everything, can play together. You know, and that was the idea. That was the important thing, that everybody had an equal fair shot to play. So we developed a game where you have a 2-foot basket, a 4-foot basket, and an 8-foot basket. And depending on the kid's ability, they shot at that one basket. But everything else, basketball was the same. You know, it's 5 on the side. You know, the chair is part of the body, so chair-to-chair contact is considered a foul. If you're able to, you dribble. Passing is the same, whether it's a chest pass or a bounce pass. Defense, we instill a 2-on-2 zone defense and a motion offense.
Joe, people that have kids with disabilities that might be hearing this for the first time, what's your encouragement to them to not only do Viscardi, but in general, get their kid out and about? What's your encouragement to them today?
Okay, as a kid, if you're a kid looking, you know, for a niche in life, right? Basketball, specifically wheelchair athletics, is a great way to find yourself. You know, you're active, you're meeting people, you're going places. That's all important stuff, especially for a person with a disability. Instead of, you know, just kind of hanging inside watching TV all day, it's important to be active, and whatever you can do, you need to do.
Yes.
And whatever kind of function you have, you need to keep that, right? And athletics, whether it's playing basketball or just cruising around the neighborhood in your wheelchair, that's important, you know, because your body needs exercise.
Mm.
You know, you need to stay in shape and stay fit. And those of us that have disabilities need to do that even more because we are behind the eight ball physically and medically, you
Right.
know. So some things don't work for us. So we need to take advantage of the things that do work. As for Viscardi, as a school, it's a great place. It's fantastic. I mean, you know, you get a great quality education. We are Regents accredited. Dr. V had the idea that not only will you have an education, but you'll have the opportunity to have therapies there,
Right.
whether it's physical therapy, occupational therapy, things like that. We at Viscardi wanted to, and he wanted to make it as real a school as we can, you know. So anything that the quote unquote able-bodied world does in school, we do. Whether it's playing basketball, going to prom, senior class trips, student council,
Well, I was going to say, how much does sports? Because remember, in the '90s, Jordan had this big world open up because he was doing basketball. He went overseas and did all that. But sports for you and even the kids at HVS, they get doors open when they join the sports programs, don't they?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Because wheelchair athletics is not very well known. And if you're good at it, right? And in today's world, especially, you know, I like the idea that, you know, the corporate world, the media is looking at a person with a disability and not feeling sorry for them, but encouraging them and congratulating them because whatever obstacles they face, they're overcoming by doing something athletically.
Joe, are you saying then there's actually an uptick in hirings for people with disabilities in today's world?
Yes, there are. I do see a lot more opportunities for people with disabilities in the corporate world. I do see a lot of opportunities, you know, in the media world where, you know, back in the day, they would put an able-bodied actor in a wheelchair and let them portray somebody as a disability. In today's world, you know, they're using the real thing.
And look at Ali Stroker. She's actually going to be with us in October. But look at her. She just won a Tony Award. It's amazing.
There you go. There you go. Case in point, Ali Stroker. That's phenomenal. You know, she was supposed to be at our Reach for a Star this past April.
Well, I was told she's going to actually be there in October, which will be pretty cool.
Yes, so, yeah. We rescheduled that for October.
Joe, I really can't get past this point, but you know, my dad actually talked about another star of the 90s, Patrick Ewing, and how Patrick was going through contract negotiations with the Knicks. He was fairly unhappy with them. Yet my dad gained a different perspective when he saw one Scotty Bubba Pollock. And Joe, we had a special kid dribble the ball, play basketball with no arms and two legs. Yeah. Scotty Pollock. I mean, let's just call it what it is. He had that rise like Jordan did in the wheelchair basketball world. And to watch them in parallel must have been pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Scotty was something special. You know, he really blossomed when he came to school and was introduced to wheelchair basketball. That's what had happened for me. You know, just it's a simple game, basketball, but it can open up an entire world, right? And here's a kid, like you said, he was born without any arms, right? He dribbled, he was in a power chair, right? He drove his power chair with one foot and he dribbled with the other. We had specific plays with him where, you know, we created a wheelchair basketball alley-oop.
It's amazing.
Right? You know, the first of its kind, and it worked every time. All right, because the defense was on him trying to get the ball. He would just flip it up to one of his teammates, shoot at the 4-foot hoop. It was phenomenal. And even his shot, you know, he'd sit at the top of the key, and nobody can beat him.
He also pushed his players to play hard, like you do, right? I mean, he pushes guys to work with him on the court.
Yeah, I mean, he was the ultimate captain. You know, he will forever be the ultimate captain. You know, he when he was on the court, he was the general. Everybody listened to him. You know, I know when we were playing ball, all right, all I had to do was just watch Scotty.
Right.
Do what Scotty says. Right. He's
And
the
that was
general.
amazing.
Right. And he always put the kids in the right spot.
Joe, we were also in that time we were dealing with people that would jump out of their wheelchair basketball chairs to try and make a hoop, but he was not like that. He played by the rules, and that was also admirable.
Absolutely, absolutely. He played this game pure, just like Michael Jordan. Absolutely, he played this game pure. You know, he didn't want to taint it. He didn't want to take advantage of it. He knew what basketball gave him, and he wanted to give back to basketball.
And I know we do the Scotty Pollock, award every sportsmanship tournament, and you just go to pieces, and there's no question why, right? I mean, there's no question why that happens.
There's no question. Yeah. I mean, it's the poor kid. He passed away. What?
13 years ago now, I think.
15 years ago.
15 years ago, yeah.
15 years ago, right? 15 years ago, he passed away.
This December,
unexpectedly. And like you said, we give the award every year, and it tears me up.
And wonder, what do you look for? No one can be Scotty, but how does that measure?
Nobody can be, right. Nobody can be Scotty. You can't replace a Scotty, but you can have the traits and the qualities, right? And that's what we look for. Somebody that is a team player, somebody that is, is a captain, is somebody that, it's not even just on the court, but off the court. Scotty was all over the place. He had a lot of friends. He was involved in everything. He did everything. So he was a well-rounded person, right? He was a well-rounded player. So that's what we look for, in giving the award.
That reminds me of my next point. I think you were at that hockey game, but Dean hit the puck, the wiffle ball, and it hit Scotty in the nose. He started bleeding, and he kept playing on. I was like, this is the guy that Scotty Pollock is. Yeah, he can hit anywhere and keep playing.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I remember on the basketball court, he got hit in the face with a basketball, right? His teeth started bleeding. But yet, you know what? He kept playing.
Yes, he did.
The day, the weekend that he passed away, we had a tournament. He came to me and said, you know what, Coach, I have a headache. I said, okay, what do you want to do? He goes, I want to play. I was like, okay, great. So
Joe, did he look to you like Jordan looked to Jackson? Like, did he still look for you at that mentorship level?
Yes, absolutely. We had a great relationship, great friends. He wanted to be more. He wanted, that next step. He was never happy with where he was at. He wanted to see how far he could push that envelope.
It was quite a remarkable run and story with him.
He was one of the first kids to ever take the baskets that we have, the 2 and the 4 foot basket, and have his family make it at home so he could practice at home, because 1 day a week practice and playing on the weekends wasn't good enough for him. He wanted to play all the time.
I know, and then there's some video of that, which I'll play at the end of this interview because it was just so moving. You got to see how this kid did it. It was amazing.
It was amazing. Absolutely.
But he was doing everything, including sports, and you and I both see it today. Sports athletes are encouraged to only do one thing now. They're only encouraged to do one sport. But at Viscardi, we're still saying, no, play every sport you can, which is pretty powerful and pretty empowering.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, as a kid, whether you're at Viscardi or a student, I think it's important to broaden your horizons. All right. Don't just pick one sport. We in the wheelchair athletic field, you know what? We're never going to go pro.
Right.
We're never going to get paid for what we do. We do it for the love of the game, right? For the competition. So there is no reason why you can't play more than one sport. I do it all the time. I'm playing something every part of the year.
He's even skydiving, everybody. He's even skydiving.
Right? And don't forget to scuba dive.
And scuba. Yep.
Dive.
So,
yeah.
Doing a lot. And, actually with wheelchair basketball, there is a competition because some of these colleges are doing, as you mentioned, college basketball, a wheelchair basketball too.
Yes. Now the NWBA has been great, and they recognize now that a kid growing up with a disability deserves that opportunity
Yep.
at quality competition. So a lot of colleges are setting themselves with NCAA scholarships to play wheelchair basketball. I think there's like maybe 20 teams or 20 schools across the country,
It's amazing.
including now coming up, Cooney.
Real well, because there's actually a partnership. Yeah, I've heard about this, that they're going to start doing that. So
Yep, Cooney City University in New York in 2021 will be part of the NWBA Collegiate Division,
that's
which is
awesome.
fantastic for
Now, did you work
us
on that
Americans.
project?
Say again?
Did you work on that project with
No,
CUNY?
I did not.
You did not. Okay.
I did not.
Because I know a few of those guys that brought me on as the announcer back then. They're in CUNY now, so this is going to be great to see that
It's
unfold.
fantastic. I know one of our former Viscardiites, Bernil. She's involved.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, well, she
Bernil
was
Sutherland.
on the campus over there at Queens, if I'm not mistaken. So she's
Right.
involved too.
Yes.
And it's great because all our kids, and we should mention this, are city kids as well. So it gives them an opportunity if they can't find anything on the island. Hey, you still have a city outlet now.
Right. You know, and actually another one of our students, Destiny, she's in Hostos College. I think that's in Manhattan.
Yeah, in Manhattan.
So
she was also on a Cuomo ad. Did you see that? She was on a Cuomo ad. So
yes.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. So that is fantastic that the NWBA and Cooney have, you know, reached a partnership. That's fantastic.
Joe, obviously we're centered around sports at Viscardi, but how do you guys make sure we keep on the books on the learning scale as well?
Okay. Well, it's a little tough, you know, in today's world right now and doing this distance learning, it's a little tough. You know, our kids are physically challenged. They have a lot of needs. You know, so being homeschooled with mom and dad is tough. You know, our teachers are doing their best to keep everybody up to snuff and on the level. But yeah, it's like anything else. I mean, it's not just at Viscardi, you know, it's across the board. This is a new thing for everybody.
Yeah. Well, have you guys sent kind of drills that they could practice even without a basketball? Have you guys sent drills over for the teams?
Yeah. But most of our kids are at least playing, you know, basketball on like Xbox or something.
Okay.
You know, we did send out some basketballs. We do have a kid that actually, you know, created a 4-foot basket, you know, that he's in his backyard.
That's awesome.
You know, I have another kid that dribbles around his neighborhood, you know. Again, because even right now, the parks and things like that, everything's closed, everything's locked up.
Right.
So even if you had a basketball court in your backyard, you know, in a park, you can't get to it.
Joe,
so the most that we could do is, you know, kind of dribble around. I mean, that's what I'm doing. I have a basketball court in my backyard that's locked up. I can't do anything but dribble.
Joe, you're a social guy, so this must be killing you just as much as anybody else right now.
Oh, yeah, it is.
But it is important because we've seen this before where we actually could not compete in 2009 because of the H1N1, because I think one of our kids contracted it. I believe maybe passed away from it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
But we've been there, and this is why vigilance is so important in the disabled community when handling the corona crisis.
Yes. I mean, we, as a disabled individual, no matter what condition you are afflicted with, you know, we're behind the 8 ball. So something that is not known, you know, there's no answers, there's no cure, there's no vaccine. Something as simple as a cold can knock somebody off their feet very easily. And this seems to be a lot more than a common cold.
It's nothing. It's not just a flu. It's a big deal. I mean,
it's a big deal. And a lot of us who have compromised immune systems and, you know, we are medically fragile, you know, this is very scary.
It is, and I'm sure there's so much social distancing that needs to happen in all of these individuals' homes, our students' homes right now.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you can't have a lot of contact with, even mom and dad. I know my wife is a nurse. She's a
Okay.
home care nurse, and she takes care of a young lady. And that is exactly what's going on.
Right.
The mom and dad live in a house, but there's very little interaction. And if there is, everybody's gowned and gloved and
Yep.
masked because you don't want to take that chance.
Joe, we were all frustrated in '09 when H1N1 canceled, but tell me your experience through that, having to say we cannot compete in the games, right, and having been told that too.
Yeah, I mean that would came down from above, so it wasn't our decision, but that was a tough phone call that I had to make to the Empire Games and say, hey, we are directly affected by this. Luckily, there weren't a lot of people, in our circle,
Right.
right? And the tournament did go on, and the other teams did play. But yeah, we couldn't go. We couldn't even, send a kid, not even basketball, but track and field and things like that,
Right.
just because of the unknown. That was tough. The first time, I mean, I grew up on the games. I was there, as an athlete for the very first one. So
Wow.
in 2009, me personally, that was the first one I missed, either as an athlete, a volunteer, or a coach. I've been to every one except that one, and of course now this year.
Joe, I think I put video, but I definitely took pictures. It's amazing God's timing that you were able to do this, the speaker, keynote last year.
Yeah,
And
that was a,
I
that
mean,
was a
that
great
must have been, chilling in a way.
that was a great honor. I mean, like I said, I grew up on these games. I know what, they've done for me. I know what they mean to everybody. And to be asked to be the keynote speaker at last year's games, that was definitely a highlight in my life.
And it just shows you, Joe Slaninka has moved from just being on the court to being everywhere. He's got the ambassador program with Viscardi. Maybe you can weigh in on that. And now you're part of the Spina Bifida Association of New York State. Congratulations there.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm getting up there in age, and my playing career, seems to be kind of, behind me a little bit. So, but
Oh,
I still want to be active. I still want to, promote the games and, the sports and things like that. And I want to advocate. I've become more into the advocacy.
right.
Um, so with being born with spina bifida and having the Spina Bifida Association, there was an opportunity to become a board member. So I jumped on it, and yeah, it's been different, again, because now, my first year as board member, 2 months into it, we're, socially distancing.
If someone does have that Spina Bifida and they're listening now, how can they contact you for just encouragement and to get involved with the association?
Well, we do have a website, and all the information and contact information is on the website. It's SBANENY.com,
Okay.
Spanini.com.
Very cool. Well, Joe, also, I think the advocacy came in because we had seen threats to Viscardi have its funding cut. We're a 4201 in, school, and I'm pretty sure seeing that was almost going to be cut really drove you into the advocacy part of this.
Yeah, yeah, it's very scary to know that in any given moment, funding for a program such as Viscardi can be cut and not even looked at as a problem. So I really took charge and, wanted to become an advocate and, be able to go up to Albany and even, down here in Long Island and talk to our local officials about how important a school like Viscardi is.
And you bring our kids up there, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's a learning experience. So we have the opportunity to bring a couple of kids and their parents, to help advocate. We have a program. I created a program probably about 10 or 11 years ago called the Viscardi Ambassadors,
Yep.
and we do what I call Disability Awareness Days. And we go to area schools and talk about disabilities and what it's like to have a disability, and the advantages of being a Viscardi student. But the most important thing is the kids that we speak to, all able-bodied kids, gives them an opportunity to ask questions that they might have that
Right.
they've never been able to ask before. I've been, approached and, it's been said, hey, I've never seen a guy in a wheelchair before, and so now they ask a question, we answer it. They're now going home with a good, correct
They being like
information.
our assembly people, right?
Say again?
They being like the assembly people that we meet up there in Albany and such.
Well, and yes, that too. We've done programs with the adults and things like that, but we focus a lot on school age kids.
That's good. Well,
We've
that's right.
done
You were doing all those trips to schools before this pandemic hit, if I'm not mistaken.
right. We do at elementary school, a middle school, a high school. We've gone to some colleges. We've even spoken in front of some businesses like JetBlue
Great.
Airlines, Computer Associates, Canon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and today would have been the Mets night at Citi Field, so that's by the wayside now. But those nights are always fun. But I've got to ask you your favorite memory, because a week from tomorrow would have been the opening ceremonies for the games. Favorite memory from the games that you won't ever forget.
Honestly, my favorite memory, I have a few. I mean, I
Of
have
course.
one as an athlete. When I was an athlete, back, in the 90's and whatnot,
Mhm.
my game was table tennis, right?
Okay.
I wasn't into the track and field and things like that. I was into table tennis. And, I probably have 10 or 11 gold medals at home,
That's
you know,
awesome.
from, table tennis. I love table tennis.
Mm.
And then just to be a coach and be on the National Community College floor and win that gold medal,
Mm.
it's a fantastic feeling.
Well, then you remember, just like I do, the same year that Jordan, I think, won in 97, Jeannie Oberg was running up and down the court, giving us championship shirts. And I'll never forget that moment on
I
the
still
court.
have that shirt.
Yeah, I believe we do somewhere in the house here, but that was it was incredible that year
I
was
still have that shirt. Yeah.
and for me also the final year, which ended up being, I mean, we didn't know, but '08 was like you had Matt Limbaugh, you had all those kids from our generation,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, we are very lucky at Viscardi. We have a lot of great families, a lot of great students that turned into a lot of great ball players. We had a lot of good luck on the
Mhm.
basketball court.
And we can't go by without saying the guys who come to Sportsnet every year help make that possible too.
Yeah, sports night, I mean, it's phenomenal. The athletes that come and do the meet and greet, sign the autographs and things like that. That's where
Amazing.
it's at. I mean, a couple of years ago, I got to meet, Joe Namath.
Yeah. Yep.
Phenomenal.
Well, and a lot of those, we had Eli there too, and he just retired, but he was there while he was a Giant. So it's pretty remarkable
Yeah.
how we've gotten people there. So obviously it's financially tough, but when things do come around, and we did actually have an auction for that night actually end on Friday night. I don't know how we did with that or not, but overall, when we can contribute again, what can people do to make sure our programs keep running?
Well, again, we always take, donations and things like that. You can visit our website, viscardicenter.org. There's always great ways to donate money, and there's always great ways to, come in and be a volunteer if you want to give that way.
And by the way, I will obviously say hi to Steve Vaccaro. He's one of our mutual friends through all of this, and Ray Negron.
Yeah.
So
I'm actually going to see Steve later tonight.
what's it like? Okay, so what's it like sharing your story, sharing Viscardi's story on all these platforms? It really is carrying on the legacy of Dr. Viscardi.
I love what you guys do. I love what you do. I love what Steve does. That you guys are community based. You get the word out. There's no frills with you guys. You're straight and to the point. And you're just you guys, you love what you do.
Well,
And
you
it
created
shows.
me. You created this because For those who don't know, Joe Salonica on my every morning would say, "You want to do public address announcements?" I was like, "Yeah, why not?" And maybe I didn't get the pledge right half the time, but that's okay. Joe gave me that outlet. I remember that to this day.
But you know what? That's where you start.
Yep.
Somebody does the pledge in the morning announcements, and look at where you are now. You
And
got
then he
your
got
own
me
show.
involved with the play-by-play of the basketball. So thank you. I'm
Right.
doing this to say
You
thank you.
went to college, you graduated.
And who knew where that would, how life would go after Viscardi, and yet here we are. So,
And here we are, and you got nowhere else but up, bud.
and thank you for everything you've done the last 20-something years. It's been
Oh, thank
incredible.
you, Alex.
And you said you go to a lot of Knick games. Fun story. He found my dad and I outside the garden, and he was like, "You want to ride?" So he took us away, took us home. If you remember that.
Yes. Yep.
That was after I think the Pacers. Oh, and watching Reggie Miller, he was a killer against the Knicks.
Yeah,
Oh
he
my
heard
goodness.
us every time that guy got on the court. He heard us.
It
I
was
can't wait
unbelievable.
till the Knicks. I can't wait till the Knicks get back to that kind of ball.
Well, and that's the
Miss-
thing. I don't. Well, we could have that for another conversation, but it feels like a long time coming. That's the problem. It's going to be a long time from now before we get back.
Yeah.
And I know you miss your Mets. That's another thing around this time.
Yeah,
Everybody does.
the Mets. The Island. I'm all about sports. My Jets. I'm always. Now is always the time to be optimistic about the Jets.
At least the draft picks weren't too terrible this year for these guys.
I liked it. We got some O-line. We got a nice wide receiver. Hopefully we use them correctly.
I don't know if anyone's ever told you this, but when I heard Michael Jordan talk about the game, I thought I was listening to Joe Salonica. That mentality of we're going to push these guys till they cannot, we're going to push them to be successful. I mean, you both come from that same, cloth, sort of cut from the same cloth of wanting to win.
Yeah. Yes. Just because we have a disability doesn't mean we can't get pushed. Doesn't mean that, there's more to what what we have now. Doesn't mean that we can't achieve more than what we have now. You need somebody behind you sometimes to give that little nudge. And to be a coach for, the Viscardi basketball program and show the kids that, hey, if I could do it, you could do it.
Right. And Joe, it's almost like a compliment to be pushed, right? It's not like, oh,
Right.
we're not, you can do this. And it's like, no, we got to be told you have to do this.
I'm not going to get this correct, but there's a saying out there. You worry about when the coach doesn't talk to you.
Yeah.
Right. When the coach is, in your face, they're pushing you because they know you could do more. Worry about when the coach is not talking to you.
And that's such a general rule. I feel like if they're not yelling at you, if they're not, trying to make you better, then they've given up in a sense.
Right.
So,
right.
And you know what? I've always said,
I yell at all my kids the same.
I always say able-bodied, even parents with kids that, maybe those on the Upper East Side, and those who have able-bodied kids and they kind of just hand them off to nannies or whatever. People have to come to these games to see what it's really like. I think that would be such an eye-opener.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. If you haven't seen the Empire Games for the Physically Challenged, whether it's a basketball tournament or track and field or swimming or table tennis, it is a life changer. It would put things in perspective. You'll have a great time, and you'll come out of there a better person.
Exactly. And I've never asked this, is the Viscardi tournament always open to the public too, or do we kind of keep that closed into just?
No, it's always open. The Viscardi tournament we host early December, usually that first Saturday in December, and it's always open. It's free to come in, family, friends, neighbors, your listeners, if you're out there listening to Alex, if you want to come, check out the website, viscardicenter.org.
Right.
All the dates and information will be there. Absolutely.
Joe, oh yeah, it would be amazing. And so can you break some news? Are we going to have this tournament? Can you break that news here, or is there any news to break on that?
Have
the tournament in December. Is there any news on whether that?
I don't know.
No one knows.
Right now, honestly, we are following what Governor Cuomo says. Obviously we're done for the school year to get into the building, even though we are doing distance learning. We are waiting to hear what we can do about summer school.
Right. That's the next big thing for this.
That's the next big thing, whether it's going to be held virtual or in the building.
Mm.
And then, quite honestly, there's going to be more conversation about September.
Right.
And what that's going to look like, because if we want, in order to get into the building, things need to change. So
I think we're going to have temporal checks everywhere now. It seems like that's what's going to be the next norm.
We're trying to figure all that stuff out now ahead of time. So when governor says it's a go, we can hit the ground running. But it's step by step, it's day by day. The December tournament is, in the near future, but it's not on the front burner yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, and one more thing, because we did talk about loss, and this school has suffered a lot of loss. And so for those who are losing parents and losing people that aren't in this community, that don't really experience it often, what do you have for encouragement for them?
That's tough. We do suffer a lot of loss at Viscardi. Our kids are medically fragile, and their disability does take them. You just got to hold on to the good thoughts, the good memories of that individual, and just carry the love in your heart,
right?
Always and forever.
And we do that with our own family, with Dr. V, with the Viscardi family every day.
Absolutely, every day. You think about these people every day. You get up, you think about Dr. V. You get up, you think about Scotty. Right? You do. You think about every kid that is crossed your path.
And I haven't heard, but no one, thank God, has been suffering from COVID in the community, right? Like we're all pretty staying healthy right now.
That is correct. As far as I know, we're good to go. I know, some of the staff members, know people that have gotten sick, but right now, none of our students.
Okay, good.
Have been affected.
That is great news. So please come back, keep us updated on what's going on with Viscardi.
This is fantastic. I love you. I love your show.
I love you too, buddy. And we'll definitely have you back. And thanks again for joining today.
Thank you, sir.